Today I'm taking a look at the ready-to-fly Floureon 250 Racer from GearBest.com. At first glance it looks to be a copy of the Eachine 250 Racer, however it's had its specs bumped up. The Eachine Racer used Simon K 12A ESCs and a CC3D flight controller. The Floureon uses 20A BL Halley Opto ESCs and a NAS 32 flight controller, giving us much more potential. First, let's see what you get in the box. Everything comes in a nicely packaged foam box that could be used as a carry case, however, you can't store it in the box with the props on. We have the quadcopter with its smiley face up front. Similar to the Eachine Racer, you have two powerful 3-watt spotlights at the front, as well as a massive LED strip on the back for racing. Those are not turned on automatically. There is a button on the side of the quad to turn those on and off. Honestly, I will be mostly flying with these off to save a bit of power. You are given a vibration dampening plate, which I have affixed my Foxeer Legend 1 to. You of course don't get this included, but it's really nice that you are given the vibration plate for your favourite action cam. The construction of this quad is quite interesting. The top plate is carbon fibre and the bottom plate is fiberglass with a built-in power distribution board. There's no standoffs. Instead, the plastic arms of the quad act as a support, which do seem to be really sturdy. There does seem to be a slight weakness in the middle of the frame because of this, so I shall have to see how it performs. But it's not that bad really. I guess I'm used to my bulletproof alien frame. This quad is quite wide in general, and the bottom plate has foam padding underneath. There are some holes to house the included battery strap that you are given. The quad is using Floureon branded motors, which are 2204 2300 kV. The props are clipped 5-inch 2-bladed props with clockwise and counterclockwise tightening spinners. The NAS board is mounted at the bottom of the quadcopter, and above that is the 600mW VTX. The SMA adapter comes out of the top plate. It's nice that this one is SMA, as I believe the Eachine Racer was RP SMA. The majority of my gear is SMA, so that is good for me. You are given a cloverleaf antenna as well. It looks like a cheap brand, so after this review I will be changing those to the Aomway antennas that I have. The receiver is the FlySky IA6, which uses a PWM output, so each channel is connected individually to the NAS board rather than just one cable. Usually S-Bus or FlySky's own version iBus is preferred these days for lower latency, so I shall see how I get on using PWM. The included FPV camera up front is quoted as being 1000 TV lines. I'm more interested to see if it's a CCD or CMOS camera, but there's no mention of this. It is most likely a CMOS camera to save on cost. However, CMOS cameras are pretty good these days. The little diatone CMOS camera that I use on my micro quadcopters is great. You can't adjust the angle of the FPV cam without any modification. It is mounted at 10 degrees or so. You would have to hack away at the carbon or lift the camera out of its housing to wedge it at another angle, but that's a minor detail. The VTX, as mentioned, is 600mW, and the channels are changeable up to 32 channels, which is great. I will show you how to work that later. There's an XT60 connector soldered directly to the power distribution board, which I like. I did this on my alien frame as well. The build is really clean and you get a lot for your money with this one. I do have a couple of gripes in general about the frame. The VTX is relying partly on the SMA connector to attach to the top plate. There's two nylon screws holding it in at the front and the SMA connector at the back. This leaves the SMA screw pretty loose at the back. Don't try to tighten it up though, as the VTX board will bend and snap. The ESCs use cable ties to attach to the arms, however some of them are not tightened properly and are falling out. It's an easy fix but worth mentioning. Lastly, the instructions are really minimal with this quad, which left a lot of stuff unexplained, so hopefully this video will help you somewhat if you are wanting to purchase this one. Let's check out the other stuff that you get in the box. We have the 1500 3S battery, which uses an XT60 connector, so I can charge it with my hobby grade charger. You are given a B3 AC charger to charge the LiPo. This works by connecting the balance plug of the battery to it. It's not the best way to charge these batteries as you are limited to 0.7 amps. It will take a long time to charge against my hobby grade charger, which I can set the number of amps to 1C at 1.5 amps. I use the B6 AC V2 charger. Next, of course, we have the transmitter and the included FPV monitor. You are given a stand to install the FPV monitor. Again, there's no instructions how to do this, so I have guessed. You are given 3 washers, an extender to free the stand from the lanyard clip, the arm to the stand, the base to the stand, 4 screws, 2 nuts, and a screw head fastener. I used the first screw, washer, nut, and head fastener to install the extension bracket, the other screw and 2 washers to install the arm, the third screw to install the base plate, and the thumb screw to install the monitor. You are given 2 Allen keys in this kit, but none of them fit the screws for the stand, so you will need to supply your own, which is a little bit of an oversight. Or if you have goggles already, you can do away with the stand and FPV monitor altogether. Also in the kit you are given a bind plug in case you accidentally hit the bind button on the transmitter, or if you already have one of the other FlySky transmitters you can rebind your favourite one. You are given a lanyard to hold the transmitter around your neck. You will have to attach that to the arm of the FPV monitor if you wish to use it in this configuration. This one seems a bit of an oversight as well, but the monitor is supplied with a dipole antenna, whereas the quad is using a cloverleaf antenna. You will still be able to fly with it, but you really need to have matching antennas to get the most out of it. Onto the back of the FPV monitor, and you can see that we have the SMA connector, AV out, AV in, and DC in. So it's good that you've got AV out and AV in. Now this is another slight oversight in my opinion. The FPV monitor has a built-in battery, which is just amazing for this price. However, you are given this DC in lead to charge it, so you need to have some kind of hobby grade charger already to charge the monitor. It would have been nice to see a solution for that, such as charging via the USB port. It has a USB port underneath which does power up the monitor when you plug it in. However, this is for firmware updating and it does not charge the monitor, which is a shame. The lead provided is also the incorrect mating for a hobby charger. I think originally this monitor was for use with a car because the DC port allows a 2 to 3 cell external battery to be plugged into it. So I'm going to have to cut this female JST connector off and add a male in order to charge it. It's a small thing, but it's something someone buying this aircraft as an RTF might not have experience in. Overall though, the monitor is pretty awesome. It's 7 inches and has a built-in 5.8 GHz video receiver and scanner. A 1-second press of the power button will turn it on. Now you have to be careful with this, as I found that any longer than 1 second will power it back off. I guess this is to stop it powering if something is accidentally pressed against it. Sometimes it can take a couple of tries to turn on. Once it does turn on, you will get snow, which is always good for FPV, especially something as fast as a mini quad. It will initially display the selected frequency and band in red, and then it will turn off to show the battery level of the monitor. The V1/V2 button is to select between the AV in and the 5.8 GHz receiver. The menu button speaks for itself. My menu was in Chinese from default, so you can use the plus and minus pads to move down the menu and change the language. You press the OK button to go into that setting and change it. It's really easy. You can do an auto scan which will search for the nearest clear picture, or you can choose the group and frequency manually, which is neat. You have the usual brightness, contrast and colour settings. This monitor is really bright anyway, which is good for outdoor use. Rotation flips the screen upside down, and the help button shows you all the frequencies, which is nice. Even if the hardware is designed for a car seat, the firmware is definitely designed for FPV. I would like to have seen a 4x3 option though. We are stuck in 16:9, but that doesn't seem to bother me so much these days. There's 3 lights on the monitor. It's interesting how they have dealt with this. The blue light shows when the monitor is switched on. The char light flashes up green. This is to show when the monitor needs charging and not when it is charging. And the full light shows when the battery is fully charged. You don't get a sun shield with this monitor. However, its surface is matte, so you shouldn't really need one coupled with its brightness. Honestly, I fly mini quads mostly with goggles these days and use an FPV monitor for my bigger aerial photography aircraft, but I will show you how it works anyway. You will notice that this transmitter is in mode 1 configuration. GearBest only sell this in mode 2, however you can convert it to mode 1. It's a complete pain though. You have to take the back off, undo the screws to the pots and swap them around, inverting them in the process. The hardest part is the little springs inside. They are a total pain to get back on. It's not something I recommend, but it is possible. As the transmitter is programmable, you can go and switch the TX into mode 1 in the settings. I won't go too much into the transmitter settings. It's a good transmitter though. It's been around for a while. I used this combo in my first 450 build that's on the channel. It's got 6 channels, which are all that we need for this mini quad. It takes 4 AA batteries, which is the only non-premium thing about it. It's really thin as well. Lastly, I want to plug in the quad and show you the FPV feed because it comes with an on-screen display, which is pretty amazing for this price point. Before you do that, ensure that your VTX antenna is installed. On the display, you are given your battery voltage, the band number and frequency number within that band, and a timer which resets when you arm the quad to give you the exact flight time. As well as that, you can alter the position of the text on the screen with a short press of this hidden button underneath the vibration plate. A long press will skip through all of the 32 channels available, which is marvellous. Again, it does not tell you this in the instructions annoyingly. I've had to figure that out myself. Now before I take this for a flight, one thing that is really important is that you don't want to fly this quad out of the box for one reason. The failsafe is not set up correctly. You would normally turn the transmitter on and then the quad, and to arm you input rudder. The props will start moving as motor stop is turned off in clean flight as default. If you turn off the transmitter, the motors will return to idle. However, they won't stop turning until you turn the transmitter back on. This is very bad, especially if your quad lands upside down. It will definitely burn out a motor or an ESC. To change this, you need to do a couple of things. The first thing is to set up the quad to arm on a switch. They have not done this out of the box. I guess this is a time thing for the manufacturers. It takes a long time to do this. But the transmitter has 6 channels, so we should make use of that and make it as safe as possible. Their default setup is to have the flight modes on this 3-position switch, where the top position is self-level mode, middle is horizon, which allows you to do flips, but it still self-levels, and the last position is full acro mode, or rate mode as it's also known. With the motor stop not enabled, the flight controller will receive a failsafe and reduce the throttle to idle, but because we are arming via the rudder and not a switch, we cannot set the failsafe on the transmitter to disarm the quad. Therefore, the motors continue to spin. So what we need to do is first enable switch A to connect to channel 5 of the receiver. Out of the box, one of these potentiometers are assigned to channel 5, which is no good. You can hold down the OK button and navigate to the spanner button on the screen. Scroll down to the aux channels and change channel 5 to SWA, which is switch A. Strangely, to properly select and save that change, you have to hold down this cancel button a couple of times, so be aware of that, otherwise the setting will not save. Now that the switch is assigned to channel 5, navigate to the system setup and scroll down to RX setup. Then navigate to failsafe and press OK. Scroll down to channel 5 and press OK. Then use the up and down buttons to have the failsafe on when the switch is in the up position. Again, you will need to long press cancel out of the failsafe screen for it to save the option. I have also done the same for the throttle, however the Naze 32 will take care of the throttle's failsafe, just not the disarm function. So now you can download CleanFlight from the Chrome store, connect to it and change the mode. I have added AUX1 to the arming function and moved the slider within its range so that when switch A is in the down position, the quad will arm. You need to save those settings and then go to the failsafe tab. It's set as 1000 PWM, which is incorrect. This is the PWM value that the flight controller wishes to receive for it to cut its throttle. 1000 is too high and the motors will still run. You need to reduce it to around 900 for it to work. Save all of those settings and disconnect from the computer. Now you will be able to have a safe failsafe. Make sure that you test it with the props off. It's very dangerous if something went wrong with the setup and you could get hurt. It's a shame that you have to go and do that. I strongly advise that you do for safety reasons. I'm sure that it's a timing thing with the manufacturer why they haven't. So lastly, you need to put the props on. You are given 2 sets in total. You can use the included Allen keys to loop through the holes in the spinner to tighten them up. The silver spinners are for the clockwise motors and the black spinners are for the counterclockwise motors. Don't over tighten them, otherwise you can snap off the motor shaft. This is why I prefer nylon locking spinners, as they don't have to be fully tight to be effective. Firstly, I'm going to take the quad for a flight in its stock form and see how we get on. So I'm going to select that arming switch that I set up to arm the quadcopter, and I'm taking off here in stability mode. I just want to get a feel for how this thing flies in stability mode. This is the first time that I have flown it FPV. The audio that you are hearing is from the Foxeer Legend 1, the onboard camera. I'm going to flick between this view, which is taken with the Xiaomi Yi, and the Legend 1 periodically in this flight. So I flicked into acro mode there, and this is the footage from the Legend 1. And I'm really impressed with it. I go for a roll there, and there's no particular wobbles that I can notice. I do a bit of a punch out and try a backflip. I notice that there are more wobbles on the flip than the roll. So again, I'm just flicking back to the footage there of the FPV monitor. You can see I have a little bit of breakup, but it isn't too bad. I found that I was able to fly over all of my fields without any complete breakup. So you can use this antenna setup if you want, but I will be swapping that out. So as I flick back to the Legend footage there, something that I noticed is that as the battery depleted, I did get a few more wobbles. I'm doing a punch out test here and we get a normal 3-cell punch out test, and I go into a roll there. It's still fairly stable, but I'll tell you now what I plan on doing with this is adding Betaflight to it and tuning it better, because it has got so much potential. I think another thing that people are going to be wondering about is, can you add a 4-cell battery? And according to the manual, you can, so I'm going to give that a try, but in a future video. This is just how I initially feel about it. As I do a 4-point roll there, you can see that it is wobbling quite a lot. As I say, the battery starts to deplete and the PIDs are being affected there, so I need to do some tuning, but these are the stock PIDs after all. You can see I'm getting some wobbling there again. So yeah, I'm going to try a 4-cell setup on this, but not yet, because some reviewers have stated that they didn't have any luck with 4 cells, but the manual states 2 to 4 cell compatible. So if that is the case, this quadcopter is a real contender. I mean, it's going to be great for beginners anyway, but imagine adding a full cell battery and being able to compete with this thing, because at the moment people are competing with their scratch builds and not these RTFs. Either way though, you're going to have a lot of fun with this quadcopter. I just decided to take it to the edge of the field to see if I can get the full range, and it was no problem. So I absolutely love this quadcopter. I didn't think that I would, but it is really good, and the footage from the Legend is great. So there is my initial review of the Floureon 250 Racer. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.